But thank you for coming today. Thanks for spending your Saturday and coming to our team manager training. We've really found that team managers who come to our training actually know what's going on and can help their team a lot better. And then they're not surprised on tournament day when we tell them that their structure can only weigh 75 grams. So, things like that. Because team managers who don't come to this tend to be totally lost, and then their team as a result is lost then too. So we really appreciate you coming, and this we found is really beneficial not only for you, but for the success of your team.
And for us.
Yeah, it's been very helpful.
We started hearing the questions before we get there.
Yeah. So thank you for coming. We really appreciate you taking the time out. So I'm Colton Toppler. I'm one of the Colorado Affiliate Challenge Masters for the state of Colorado. We also have Jim Serco. He's not here today. We have Carrie Smith, and we have Jamie Cogswell. So we're the Affiliate Challenge Masters. If you have questions or concerns or confused about anything, feel free to reach out. We love answering questions. We're definitely here to help you. So if there's anything, reach out to us. We'd rather it be a stupid question to like you may think it's a stupid question, but at the end of the day, it might be the most important question you've asked. So definitely ask anything and everything. We're here to help. All right. Don't feel bad about it either, because we like to answer questions. We like to be there for the team. All right. So we're going to watch about a 10-minute video that gives you a good overview of the challenge and gives you some more visuals, and then we're going to discuss and talk about everything that was talked about in the video and some of the things that aren't talked about in the video. All right?
Hi guys, I'm Joshua Jasper. I've been in DI since I was about 8 years old, and currently I teach science at a space camp in California.
And I'm Carrie Shade. I've also been involved in DI since I was about 8 years old. I'm currently an appraiser and volunteer with Maryland DI, and in my real life, I'm a college student.
Hola, yo soy Manolo, and I've been also involved in DI for roughly 10 years, and
We are alumni! We're excited that you and your team have chosen to solve the engineering challenge in the cards.
The engineering challenge allows you and your team to take risks in the world of structural engineering. You will design, build, and test weight-bearing structures using only a designated set of materials. Your team members will also work together to write an original story and design props, costumes, and set pieces.
this year is a bit different than years past. We have a challenge with a brand new setup. I'm going to let my fellow alumni tell you about it while I go get the presentation animation ready.
Thanks, Manolo. We'll catch up with you in a bit. The In the Cards challenge will require you and your team to design a bridge made out of playing cards and duct tape. During your presentation, you'll assemble and test your bridge, include a set piece that uses technical methods to transition between settings, and tell a story about an unexpected connection and its outcome. Before you get started solving this challenge, be sure you read the entire thing. There's a lot of information in the challenge that we won't cover in the video.
If you haven't read the challenge, you should probably stop this video and read it now. The information we are presenting will make a lot more sense after you read the challenge.
During this video, we're going to focus on the tournament procedures that you and your team will follow as you present your solution at a tournament. Remember that your tournament site may be set up slightly different than what you see in this video. Be sure to check with your tournament director for specific details about your site.
When you and your team arrive at the tournament, take some time to visit the presentation site, which includes the bridge check-in area, prop storage, prep area, and presentation area. About an hour before your presentation time, you will bring your unassembled bridge parts to the bridge check-in area at the tournament.
For this video, the bridge we're using to demonstrate the tournament procedures is made out of blocks and a slinky and does not qualify as an official structure. Your final bridge will look anything like this.
The bridge check-in appraisers will confirm that your bridge meets all of the requirements listed in the challenge. They will check to make sure you only use playing cards and duct tape in your bridge parts. Once they have checked your materials, the appraisers will measure each bridge part and verify that the length, width, and height of each bridge part is no more than 18 inches or 45.7 centimeters.
The check-in appraisers will also weigh each bridge part to ensure that the weight of each bridge part does not exceed 75 grams. The weight of each part will be recorded.
Since you will be assembling your bridge during your presentation, you may bring a plastic bag with extra duct tape and playing cards to use as you assemble your bridge. The weight of these materials must not exceed 75 grams. The bridge check-in appraisers will verify that the total combined weight of your bridge parts and additional materials does not exceed 1,000 grams.
Don't forget about the load test.
That's right. You and your team will complete one or more load tests to demonstrate how much weight your assembled bridge can support by moving a weight or a set of weights across the length of the bridge.
You can bring up to 3 weights to use for your load test. The weights may be any physical item your team would like. They must be numbered clearly for easy identification. The weights must have a length, width, and a height of no more than 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters, and must not exceed 175 grams. The bridge check-in appraisers will verify and record your measurements of your weights.
If any of your bridge parts, extra materials, or load test weights do not meet the requirements of the challenge, the bridge check-in appraisers will give you the opportunity to bring them into compliance as long as there is time in the tournament schedule.
Once your bridge parts and your load test weights have been checked in, you will place your bridge parts, extra materials, and load test weights in a team-provided container. A bridge check-in appraiser will then seal the container.
20 minutes before your presentation time, one of your team members will go to the bridge check-in area to pick up your container. The other team members will gather everything else you need for your presentation. You will then meet all of your team members in the prep area.
Be careful not to break the seal of the container until asked by the prep area appraiser. The prep area appraiser will go over your paperwork, talk with you about your presentation and props, review a safety list, and ensure that you have everything that you need for your solution.
Once you are finished in the prep area, your team will move to the launch area. Your team manager and other supporters can help move your props and materials into the launch area. Once everything is in the launch area, they will then go sit in the audience and enjoy your presentation.
Remember, the setup at each presentation site may be different than what you see here.
Speaking of the presentation area, hey Manolo, are you ready with that animation?
Oh, it's ready. Come take a look.
Let's talk a little bit about the presentation area. The launch area will be near the presentation area. Your team is responsible for moving everything from the launch area into the presentation area. No one can help you do that. The presentation area will be at least 16 feet by 16 feet. That measurement may or may not be taped, but you'll be able to use any extra space that might be available at your tournament.
Can the bridge be placed anywhere in the presentation area?
Actually, no. There is a specific section for the bridge. On the side of the presentation area that is close to the audience, you will see 2 taped areas, Area A and Area B. In the taped areas, you will see 2 porcelain floor tiles, red lines, and a barrier. The porcelain floor tiles are the bridge foundations. The bridge must rest on the 2 bridge foundations and nowhere else. The red lines divide Area A and Area B into measurement zones. Each measurement zone will be 10 centimeters by 60 centimeters. The team will decide where to place the bridge foundations within Area A and Area B.
How will the bridge placement appraisers measure the bridge once it has been assembled?
Great question. The bridge placement appraisers will determine the measurements by noting the measurement zones in which the team has placed the bridge foundations. You can check the challenge for the details on how the bridge placement appraisers will do this.
Hey Manolo, what's this?
Oh, that's the barrier, which will be located in between Area A and Area B. Your bridge must be assembled to extend over the barrier without touching it. The bridge cannot go around or below the barrier.
How tall will the barrier be?
It depends on your level. Elementary level teams will have a 6-inch tall barrier, middle level teams will have a 12-inch tall barrier, and secondary and university level teams will have an 18-inch barrier. Pass me the bridge you made and I will show you how a team will place it. Well, I'm not sure how much weight a Slinky can hold. Since your team has to use playing cards and duct tape, your bridge will hold weight differently than this one. Remember, the bridge may not touch any part of the barrier and may only be supported by the bridge foundations.
Wow, I'm excited to see all the bridges.
But how will the team test how much weight the assembled bridges will hold?
Oh, remember that the team can use any physical item as a weight for the load tests. To successfully complete a load test, all parts of the weight must leave the space above one bridge foundation, move across the bridge between the bridge foundations and over the barrier, and enter the space above the other bridge foundation.
How do you think we could move the weights across the bridge?
I don't know.
Wait, that was wild. According to the challenge, the team must use technical methods to do that. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Thank you for showing us that, Manolo.
You're welcome.
This video is just an overview of the bridge check-in area and the tournament procedures for testing your bridge. As you plan your challenge solution, remember that the challenge has many more specifics and requirements that you will need to know to create a complete solution.
If you have questions, consult the challenge, rules of the road, and the Destination Imagination website for any published clarifications. If you don't find an answer to your question, submit a team clarification. Instructions on how to submit team clarifications are listed in the rules of the road.
Have a great time solving this challenge. We can't wait to see all of your creative solutions.
Enjoy your journey with Destination Imagination.
So I feel that as the ACM team, we feel this has a pretty good overview of the challenge, and it's really in depth. We also feel like it could be really good to share with your teams and give them a better idea of what exactly is involved. So we'll have this available up on the DI website, and it'll get sent out in an email here shortly too. So I want to draw your attention to this glossary sheet that we made. This glossary sheet is all of the different terms and things that were talked about, not only in this video, but things that we're also going to be talking about coming up here. It's like definitions of what everything is, because there's a lot of this that can be very confusing and not sure of what it is exactly being a new team manager. So this can be a really good go-to sheet that's just a general idea of what exactly is the bridge, you know, what is a payload, what is a barrier, you know, stuff like that. All right. So we're gonna get into it and talk about the challenge now. So you're gonna design and build a bridge out of playing cards and duct tape that's gonna be assembled during the presentation. You're gonna test how much weight that it can support with while it's extended over the barrier using 1, 2, or 3 payloads. Okay. The payloads can be anything that your team wants. It's something that they select. You're going to present a story about an unexpected connection and its outcome using artistic and theatrical techniques. Artistic and theatrical techniques are defined on that sheet, so it gives you an idea of what exactly we're looking for. You're going to design and create a set piece that uses technical methods to transition between settings. Technical methods is also defined on that sheet. Present 2 creations that are team choice elements. These can be anything. They can be areas of skill, strengths, interests of your teams. They can be props, they can be costumes, they could be choreography, dance, they can be music, they could be just about anything. The only thing I want to caution with this is that there is a set aspect of our challenge where your team has to build a set. So don't use the set necessarily as a team choice element. It helps if they're distinguishable parts, so something that is easily separated. But it could be like team choice element could be. It's important that it's integrated with your presentation, so something that plays a big role in your presentation. What do y'all want to talk about the bridge? Should I keep going?
Go ahead.
All right, I'll keep going. All right. All right, so we're going to design and build the bridge using only duct tape, and playing cards. So duct tape is defined as actual duct tape. It doesn't include foil duct tapes. It doesn't include tapes like this. It doesn't include electrical tape, things like that. It has to actually be duct tape, okay? Cloth-based polyethylene tape. So, and then playing cards, it has to actually be a playing card, like meant to be a playing card. It has to be printed like a playing card. So you can't just use a random piece of paper and say it's a playing card. It actually has to be a printed playing card. It does define in the challenge that it has to be a playing card, a commercially available pre-printed cardboard or paper card sold in multiple quantities known as a deck. So, they can't be made of other materials such as index cards, poster boards, boxes, other materials. So that also includes things like metal playing cards are not allowed because they have to be cardboard paper playing cards.
They can be any size though.
Any size. There's no restriction on size. So if you bought jumbo printed playing cards or normal size playing cards, or maybe your team decided they wanted microscopic playing cards, all okay. So the bridge is assembled during the presentation time. So their team is going to check in their bridge at the bridge check-in, which will be 1 hour before the presentation time. 20 minutes before the presentation time, they're going to go to the prep area. The prep area is where they're going to go through all the paperwork, make sure they have everything, make sure that they're ready to go. And then when their time is to present, they're going to have 8 minutes to cross the launch line into the presentation area, and that's when they're going to be assembling their bridge, doing their story, and do everything all in 8 minutes. Okay? Everything has to happen in 8 minutes, which means that you should probably practice and make sure that everyone knows what they're doing, because there's a lot of different things that all happen at the same time. The bridge can be assembled from at least 2 and no more than 18 bridge pieces. Okay? So the pieces have to be less than 18 inch by 18 inch by 18 inches on the dimensions. Okay? There's also a published clarification about how to measure the bridge pieces. So if you look at the back of the glossary sheet, these are the published clarifications currently that we have going. The second one talks about how they're going to be measured. So it's going to be actually like physically measuring each dimension from the widest dimension kind of thing, rather than like putting it into an 18 inch by 18 inch box kind of thing, because then you have the diagonals, which are bigger than the 18 by 18. The weight of each piece cannot exceed 75 grams. So each piece has to be under that limit, or that piece cannot be used. Okay? So that's something to really stress with your teams. It's better to have more pieces that are a little bit lighter than it is than to have ones that are like right at 75 grams. Because your scale might be a little different than our scale, and it suddenly may mean you might be spending your hour before the presentation modifying and changing things. So like try to work through some of this stuff ahead of time rather than being frantic trying to fix things right on the spot. So all of the bridge pieces combined cannot exceed 1,000 grams. Okay, so we'll weigh each individual bridge piece, and then we'll add all of them together, and it has to be under 1,000 grams. And then your team can bring additional playing cards and duct tape, like in a bag, to help facilitate building it and assembling it during the presentation. So that can be another bridge piece. That counts towards the number of bridge pieces. So you can only have 17 bridge pieces and then materials kind of thing. It counts as one of the bridge pieces. It also cannot exceed that 75 gram limit. Okay? The other thing to keep in mind is that duct tape on cardboard roll is okay, but that cardboard roll cannot be used and it counts against the weight. Okay? So something to keep in mind is that the cardboard roll counts for the weight then also. I think that hits most of the bridge aspects on like the building and stuff.
It's a really good idea to build bridges and test them ahead of time. Just, yeah. Always come prepared, know what's going to happen.
Practice.
Yes.
See what works. See what doesn't work. Design a bridge, and if it doesn't work, design something different. You know, have multiple team members designing different bridges, testing different things. Spread up the workload amongst everyone.
And it's not considered interference to provide them with the tile and a barrier to practice with.
So, yep. So definitely provide those things if you can. It'd be very, very beneficial to the team. So, and I mean, even if you don't have the tiles, even just an 18 inch by 18 inch piece of paper would be a great way for them to practice like what they're going to see on the tournament, you know. All right, so bridge placement. So they have to assemble their bridge to create a continuous physical connection from one side, from measurement zone A to measurement zone B. Okay, so it's got to go from over here to over there, over top of the barrier. Okay, this barrier currently is for the middle school level. It's 12 inches high. Elementary is only 6 inches, and then high school and university is 18 inches. Okay, so there'll be different heights barrier just based upon the level. Once your team starts their 8-minute presentation, they'll be able to place these tiles wherever they want within the measurement zones. Okay, so that'll probably be the first step in the bridge process and the placement and the assembling, is placing the foundations where they desire. Okay, So they can put them anywhere they want. So they can put them as close or as far away as they want it, kind of thing. Anywhere in here. Okay? The measurement zones, they're 10 centimeter zones. Okay? So on here, if this tile is in this spot, it would count for this zone, kind of thing, because it's the front edge of the tile that's the one that gets counted.
Okay, so they would get more points the farther out it goes?
So it
Or-
increases the bridge span.
Right.
Okay? So the bridge span is going to be used to calculate one of the scoring aspects for the bridge.
Okay.
So the further away it is, you're going to get more points for the span, but it is a ratio. It's called the efficiency calculation or efficiency ratio.
Efficiency ratio. Yeah.
So it's going to be the span of the bridge divided by the weight of the bridge, which we'll get to. So, okay, and that'll give you the score. So it can be really far apart but weigh a lot, and it's not necessarily going to give you a very good score. It can be really close together and weigh like nothing and give you a higher score. So it's finding the sweet spot. It's finding the sweet spot in there. All right. So these are called bridge foundations. So the bridge foundations are the 18-inch by 18-inch tiles that you'll have at the tournament. Most of them will have some kind of backing on the back of them in order to like protect the floors and stuff. So like these ones have like a mat stuff on the back. The tape in these zones count. The tape counts for the zone behind it. Okay? So like for example, if you place the tile right here on this front edge, it would count as the second zone because the tape is part of this zone. This tape here is part of the third zone. This tape here is part of the fourth zone. Okay? And like this section here is 10 whole centimeters because the front blue tape doesn't count. It has to be without, it can't be on top of the blue tape. Okay?
Okay.
So putting it halfway in the square.
What?
So putting it halfway in the square compared to like on the edge of the square.
It's more advantageous probably to put it on the edge, but up to the team. Probably the front edge, but
Just saying.
just saying. So, what else? So the team will decide where they want it. The team can tape their bridge to the foundations if they want. The depth tape can be stuck to the foundations. So in those materials that they bring to assemble their bridge, they can actually tape the bridge to the foundations or the bridge pieces to the actual tiles. So that's one of the little details that they don't tell you about.
No, but it's useful.
So, if the barrier gets knocked over, the team has to put the barrier back up. So keep that in mind too. And maybe, mention that as, what happens if the barrier gets knocked over? What do we do? Stuff like that. Alright. So this is just a visual of what we've got set up here with the dimensions and stuff. So one of the areas will be marked measurement zone A, or area A, area B. And then we have the bridge foundations as our tiles. And then the barrier will be this PVC pipe and board setup that we've got. So this is like actually what it'll look like on tournament day. This is full scale, full size right here.
Except it might not be paper, that's all.
It probably will not be paper. That's still up in the air. So, alright. So, once your team's assembled their bridge, we have load tests. So, the load test can be one or more load tests to demonstrate the strength of the bridge. So, for a load test, they're going to use a technical method to take their payloads. They can have up to 3 payloads, okay? The payloads need to be clearly numbered, 1, 2, 3. They will also get checked in with the bridge at the bridge check-in, okay? And then the payloads will start out over top of one of the bridge foundations, okay? It doesn't matter which foundation it starts over top, okay? And then the payload has to use technical methods to get the payload from here across the bridge over to the top of the other bridge foundation, okay? And it has to be in contact with the bridge the whole time. the technical method can also not contribute to the strength or stability of the bridge itself.
Or make the weights lighter.
Yeah.
Change the weight of the.
Okay.
Okay. So they can attempt the load test as many times as they want. To use 3 weights for the load tests, the weights. Okay, let me backtrack a little. So the weights cannot exceed 175 grams each. Okay, so the maximum payload weight could be 525 grams, would be the maximum payload weight if they got all 3 payloads together crossing the bridge. Okay, for the load tests, the payloads have to be connected together in some way when they're crossing the bridge.
Kind of
So-
like a train.
So it could be like a train. They could be directly all touching each other and connected when they cross. It could also be that they're connected by a string or something. They all have to be connected at the start of the load test to all be considered part of that load test. So, and then the payloads, once they're connected, we'll have to get from this bridge foundation to that one, kind of thing.
And they have
So-
to stay connected the whole way across.
Yeah, they have to stay connected for them all to count. Your team can decide to do 1 payload and see if it works. And if that one works, then try it again with 2 payloads, try it again with 3 payloads, stuff like that. So these are all things that the team can decide to do. That's the reason we encourage testing, planning, figuring out what's going to happen. So all things to keep in mind. And really it's good to ask questions of the team, what if this happens? What are we going to do? Or why are we doing that? Or things like that, to help facilitate this learning and to help facilitate them figuring out and discovering how all these things work. So any kind of connector or technical method that is part of the payload will count as part of the weight for it. So for example, you have a loop that some kind of hook connects to or something, that will count as part of the payload weight. Okay? You can also have something that's a standalone item, that's your technical method. So for example, maybe you have a structure that has a pulleys on it or something. I'm not really trying to give ideas or anything, but something like that could illustrate that it's not part of the payloads, but it also is the technical method that is going to get them across the bridge. The payloads cannot exceed the dimension requirement either, so they can't be, they have a maximum of 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. Okay? They can be anything the team desires. So they can make their own, they can be creative about it, they can, come up with something that makes it easier for them to be moved. So totally up to the team on what they want their payloads to be.
So the payloads can have a minimum weight?
So the payloads do not have a minimum weight. So you can have a really light payload and a really heavy payload. You can have one that's
the points, right? I mean, the more the payload, the points would be the more.
So so we're gonna get to the scoring aspect on that too. This next thing. So that's gonna be part of the bridge strength calculation, which is gonna be the load test weight in grams times the bridge span, and that's gonna give you up to 70 points for your bridge. So and so the more weight in grams that those payloads are that are successfully crossed from one bridge foundation to the other, and the larger the span, the more points you'd get for that, for the bridge strength calculation. The other thing that is calculated is the bridge span, which is from measurement zone A to measurement zone B. So currently where the tiles are placed, this would be in measurement zone A in the second area. So this would be 20 centimeters, okay? Plus the 60 centimeters that it is from this measurement zone to this measurement zone, plus this one, since it's in the first area, would be 10 centimeters. So we've got 20 plus the 60, which is 80, and then so we'd be at 90 centimeters for our bridge span, okay? If we move the tiles, and we left that one there, but we say we moved this one back here, we're now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back, so we've got 60 centimeters, plus the 60 centimeters here, so we're at 120, plus the 10 centimeters over here, so we'd be at 130 centimeters for our bridge span. So by having them the farthest apart, you're going to have the higher bridge span, but it's finding that sweet spot based upon the weight and the bridge span and how much weight that the payloads can go to. So, okay. Did I miss anything? Okay. All right. So if you look, the efficiency ratio is going to be up to 50 points, and the bridge strength calculation is up to 70 points. So that's something to consider too, is that like if your team potentially should look at how to get the most points possible and figure out what is going to work best for them. All right, story stuff. Any of y'all want to talk about story stuff?
I can try.
All right, let's see it.
Okay. In addition to building a bridge and testing it, the team is also going to create a story that has an unexpected connections and its outcome. The unexpected connection can be between people, places, events, ideas, or anything your team chooses. They will be being scored on their artistic and theatrical techniques to portray the unexpected connections and its outcome. That's listed on the scoring sheet in the challenge. I think it's up to 15 points that they're going to be scored on their artistic and theatrical techniques.
It's 15.
Huh?
It is 15.
Yeah, it's up to 15 points. They're also going to include 2 or more settings in the story, and for this challenge, a setting is a time or place in which the story takes place.
They can be anything they want. It can be imaginary, it can be real, it can be past, present, future. It can literally be anything they want. Literally anything. So.
Yeah, and for story, like one of the best, and this is true for almost anything. Just look at what gets you points. Look at the scoring, and then try and see what you can, what your team can come up with to solve that to get the most points.
Yeah, we highly encourage using this score sheet in the challenge, almost as like a checklist of how are we getting as many points as possible, and are we missing something? What are we missing? How do we get those points too?
You could even print this scoring sheet out on a large piece of paper to have at your team meetings, and so your team can see it, and you can just go through it, and they can check it off if they've hit that element.
And the storytelling time, the story time has a different slot, right?
No.
It's all within.
All within that 8 minutes. They're doing their bridge setup, their load testing, and their story presentation all at the same time.
It's all in that 8-minute time period. So that's the reason we're saying practice, figure out who's doing what, and all of that kind of stuff. These are all decisions the team should be making, but you can be asking, so if so-and-so is building the bridge, who's doing this? Those are all things that you can help guide, but ultimately at the end of the day, their team are the ones that need to be making those decisions.
So what you're saying is someone could tell out the story, but on the parallel, the other kids could start building the bridge. That
Absolutely.
Can happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
The more times you can practice it, even simulating a performance space, give them a launch, just a line, a tape line or whatever. But as soon as their timekeeper announcer says, "Team, your time begins," they move into that presentation, and they've got 8 minutes to showcase everything.
Okay. The team can split and then they can do this all.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yep.
It's also a good time to bring up integration, because the part of your scoring for the structure testing is integrating into the story, and a good integration is if the story can't move on without the structure testing, the load tests, and if they could happen in separate rooms, then that's usually not good integration. So.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing worse for an appraiser sitting there watching a couple of the students struggling to get the structure going and nothing else is going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And the rest of the team is waiting anxiously too. So hopefully they'll recognize that themselves.
and keep
And
going.
have something going on at the same time.
Well, and definitely talk with your team about worst case scenarios. Like, if the bridge isn't working and something's not happening, what are we gonna do? Like, are we still gonna perform? Like, because by doing the other things in the challenge, you can still get points. Like, even if the bridge isn't working, do your story, present your team choice elements, do all the other aspects of it, because you'll get points for all those things. And at the end of the day, maybe your bridge wasn't the best, but maybe there were a lot of teams that had worse things than all the rest of your stuff, and you still move on, and now you have another shot at getting the bridge right the next time. So, definitely don't look over all these other points, because, like, if something's not going right, there's ways to get the points for other things.
They can always be faking that something is actually happening.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Some good improvisational skills never hurts.
So.
Never hurts.
Well, the other thing I want to mention about stories is focus on beginning, middle, end. So, that's a great way to, like, think of a story and even get like just a basic outline for a story going with the team. What's going to happen in the beginning, what's going to happen in the middle, and then what's going to happen at the end. Like, what's the progression of the story and what's going to happen. So, and then, you can build into all right, so the story has to do this. So, how are you going to do that kind of thing?
So very dumb question.
No, there's no dumb question.
I'm actually a co-parent. My wife is a team manager, so she's on the other side, so I'm helping her out. So what I'm trying to ask is, like, could the team manager introduce the team first, and then say, okay, this is my team and this is the presentation they're going to do, or it's not required at all?
So
it's all the kids.
So on the tournament day, the team will be announced by one of our volunteers called the timekeeper announcer. And they're going to introduce the team. They're going to announce the team. They're going to tell the team, are you ready? And at that point, the team's going to say yes or do something. And then they're going to start their presentation. The team manager, the easiest and best thing the team manager can do is just to take a step back and let things happen. So, bring the paperwork. And otherwise, it's up to the team.
And we have a special seat for you to sit and relax and just be part of the audience.
And enjoy the experience.
And sit on your hands, and we have
Right.
some masking tape for you.
Yeah. No,
Been there, done that.
That's not what it is.
It's done.
Yeah. So, I
Drove
mean,
them there that day. That's it.
yeah. So ultimately, it's up to the team in order to bring their solution, present their solution, fix anything if something goes wrong, decide how they're going to go about it. It's all up to the team. So you can ask the guiding questions to help them get them thinking about it, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to make those decisions, and they're the ones that need to be deciding on that.
Okay.
It's a really different role than being a coach for a sports team.
Right.
Because, you're just facilitating the space and for them to do the thinking, but you're not telling them
What?
anything.
And running to Home Depot 47
Right,
times.
yeah, and serving snacks and, that's it,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the set piece too.
Yeah, so one of the other scored elements is that they need a set piece that uses technical methods to transition between two settings, or between settings. And for this challenge, the set piece is something that's individual, freestanding piece of backdrop or scenery. Your team can have more set pieces for their presentation, but one of them is specifically being scored. And that needs to use technical design and technical innovation. And I find those two terms very, very confusing.
Yes.
And the way it was described to me is that your technical design is its reliability. That it can do the same function over and over and over multiple times and it works great. Whereas innovation is how unique and creative the technical, what they're trying to do is. So, for instance, they could have something that repeats itself, but it's not very creative, like turning on a switch or something. They can still get points for that. Or they can have something that's really creative, but it's kind of faulty, it's not working all that great, it's kind of buggy. They can still get a lot of points for the innovation, and their design points might be a little weak. Does that help? Break it up? You guys are better.
Do you want to talk team choice elements?
So for team choice elements, it's basically something that shows off what they're good at, something that they think is special that they can do. A lot of things are like art. It can be like music. It can be like a really awesome costume, something they created. It could even be like technical elements, as long as it's not the same scored piece as the other technical elements.
It could be a scenery piece, as long as it's not the same scored
Right.
scenery piece.
Right.
They have to be separate, distinguishable items.
And so there have to be two of them. And this is the same thing. This is also scored on integration. So it's important that it is a part of the story. It's like it can be really great and awesome, but if it's not if it doesn't relate to the story at all, then you're gonna be dinged on some points there. Let's see. I don't know. Just make sure that the team choice elements don't interfere, don't overlap with already scored pieces. That's a big one. The best way to you want to be really specific when you tell the appraisers what to score, because there was if you say our team choice element is our costumes, but you really all the costumes are kind of but you have one costume that's really awesome. If you tell them to score the costumes, then they can't really focus in on that one costume.
Yeah, so if there's ones that are not nearly as good as one of them, they're all going to be scored as if together. So the not so great ones are going to pull down the score of the really good one.
Yeah.
So really have the team think about how they want things to be scored, and really give good descriptions, because these descriptions that are on the paperwork, which you need to bring on tournament day, you'll need 5 copies of the tournament data forms. They're in the back of the challenge. These are good. These are what the appraisers are going to be looking at to determine how to score things. So you can tell them specifically what you want scored. Give them more information than you than they necessarily have right off the bat. Tell them what to look for. If it's something that's hard to see or hard to find, tell them how they're going to find it or how they're going to see it. Tell them things you want them to know. Maybe how you made something. But really
explain
focus on
why it's awesome.
Yeah. But be concise and be to the point too.
And so again, as an appraiser, what's most frustrating is when you look at what they've written down, and one of them was cartwheel, or I don't know, something else, a dance move, and they just did one dance move, but you're looking at their performance and they have gorgeous sets and props and costumes, and they didn't ask us to score that. The only thing we can figure is that one particular team manager was really very powerful in saying, I want this scored. And so suddenly you're just scoring a cartwheel, which may or may not have any integration with the whole performance.
And it may be what the team chooses as well. They might stick on that. You can guide them in your questions as much as you can of what have you really worked on and stuff, and they might really be proud of that cartwheel and stick with it. And that is okay. It's a learning experience.
Before DI, I couldn't do a cartwheel. Now I can. Okay.
Right.
There you go. They worked on it. Maybe they worked on it hours and hours and hours.
Wording.
It's all about
And
wording,
that's
right?
the big thing when you're filling in your forms and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Why
sit
is
with the
it
kids
special?
and talk about it.
Well, and I
get
like
the
what you
wording.
guys said on the last grouping, is if you took that one element away, does it change the performance? And if you could take it away and nothing changes about the performance, then maybe that wasn't the best choice for.
Or wasn't integrated very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The story shouldn't be able to move forward or move on without that item to get perfect integration points and to get good integration points.
I had one team, their team choice element was friendship. And another team, their team choice element was teamwork. And
Those are so hard.
it's
Neither one was visible.
and those are ones that are really hard to score, because it's if you're being really specific about how the friendship helped make all this stuff, but it's also like there's nothing like.
You might not see it the day
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick
It's
something
not apparent.
tangible.
Yeah.
Something that can be,
Exactly.
ambiguous things are tough to score. Like there was one team that wanted humor scored, and I didn't think they were very funny, so they didn't get great scores. But I mean, like pick things that are tangible, because some things just blow people out of the water and like super impressed by it, and other things not so much. For example, I scored humor really low. One of my other appraisers thought it was the funniest thing ever and scored it really high. So I mean, some of that's very subjective, and pick things that are a little less subjective and more tangible will help and benefit the team.
We've been adding and providing a lot of tips, but I think we can wrap a lot of it up into one thing. It goes back to what you said at the beginning, Colton. By you being here, the biggest advantage you can do for your team is fill out that paperwork, talk about what the team choice elements are before you show up to tournament. Because every year we get there and the paperwork comes forward and it's blank. And then you're sitting there with teams going, what do you want for your team choice element? The person who tends to be the most vocal or has something that he's really or she's really proud of, it going to end up putting up there, but it's not well described, it's not there. So here's one of the things you get to take back to your teams is before your first tournament, sit down with them, have them fill it out, sit down, review it 2 weeks beforehand, a week beforehand. Maybe something new has come up and they want to change your team choice element, but show up with paperwork already completed. It will really help.
And here's just another tip too about especially with the team choice elements. When you're thinking about your team choice elements, the sooner you can start thinking about it, to integrate it into your presentation, whether it's the building, whatever the part that the better integration point you'll get. And because as we said earlier about the whole removing it part, then it's already part of the story. And the smaller the less you choose. So like we were saying earlier, if it's store-bought compared to self-made or self-presented, then you're gonna get better score and things like that.
Yeah.
If you really hone in on something.
And it's really amazing how much the team choice elements do come into play.
Right.
They count
It's
a
best
lot.
not to leave them till the very last
Yeah,
minute.
that's
'Cause-
They
Here,
come
he's
in
gonna
quite
show
a
you
bit.
right now.
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, team choice elements at the end of the day are 15% of the overall score. So they really end up being quite a big chunk of the overall score for the day. So the central challenge aspects are the bridge and the story. So if you look, the bridge is 63% of the score and the story is 37% of the score. So at the end of the day, you're going to get the most points by having a successful bridge that can complete the bridge tasks. So keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out how to go about stuff, where to start, where the team should be spending a lot of their time and focus, is how are they getting the points? Because the bridge is something that's probably going to take up a lot of the time and a lot of the energy of all of the team members in order to have a good, successful solution. And the story stuff is important too. It is points, but it may not be as important as the bridge at the end of the day.
Use the score sheet as a checklist. Truly go through each thing and ask your kids, okay, this says this. Have we met this? Do you think we're going to get points on this? Check. Go. Really use it as a guideline. When I was a team manager and we would every meeting or every other meeting use that score sheet at the back of that points thing just to go through the checklist so that you've made sure that you've covered all your bases.
And maybe the team managers could pretend to be appraisers one time.
Or other team members.
Right.
Other
right.
team members are
Yeah.
great.
Or you
Have
can
your own
film
team
it.
score themselves.
You could videotape their performance, and then they all could sit back and appraise themselves and see what they think.
Yeah,
And be
good.
careful of double dipping.
Double what?
Double dipping.
Yes.
The score,
So you got to make sure things are individually separate items when they're scored. So the set piece can't be a team choice element. The bridge can't be a team choice element there because it's already being scored as something else. Okay, so they have to be separate, distinguishable items.
The story can't be a choice.
But
element.
even with the technical methods and things like that and the weights, really be careful and make sure that they're sort of separated.
Yeah. It helps the appraisers greatly.
So, the other thing I wanted to mention is like really prepare and think of like worst case scenarios too with your teams, because like for example, what happens if your bridge breaks before it's even checked in at structure check-in? What are we gonna do to fix it? How are we gonna fix it? Maybe something else breaks or goes wrong. What would we do? These are all things to chat with your team about.
It's like 7 on 2.
They give us a lot of info.
I know. I expect to see you in the winner's circle. That's all. I already told you this morning that winning wasn't the. I already told you that, right? It was the process, not the.
It is the process.
It is the process. Did you snicker at me?
It is. You're right.
It is the process.
It is the process.
Maybe I can talk my husband's team into doing this.
The longer your team's been around and the more experience they have, they tend to become more and more competitive. But
I don't know. I'm assisting coaching a 3rd grade team.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the 5th graders
fantastic.
are coming up with wanting to do this.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So
And you'll be amazed at how creative they are.
Yeah.
And
And
stick
you're like,
with
that
it.
will never work, and then they put it together, you're like, whoa.
Well, worst case scenario, the worst case scenario we had was my oldest son, state competition 30 minutes before going on, had a nut allergy reaction.
Oh,
and they still won 2nd place.
Wow.
there you go.
So
So
Learning
that
In
those things and growing up.
in this particular one, as the team works through it, the first time, you say a 3rd grade team, so they're gonna have the 6-inch barrier.
Yeah.
The first time they get any bridge that spans that 60 centimeters, we'd say cause for celebration. Order
Yes.
pizza,
Oh yeah.
something
oh,
like
I
that.
would.
Just
Oh,
hope you can do this. Then you start refining and improving. The bridge standing is the first one. Then it's like, what kind of a load? Hey, it could be a marble, it could be a pea. Get something across it. Another celebration. The story and everything else, but to me that's the one that you have a big celebration when you sit there and say, I knew you could do it all along, right?
Well, and see, like, us as adults and team managers and everything think this is kind of a daunting task, but a 3rd grader probably doesn't think it's near as daunting. They're just gonna go for it.
They're excited.
They're excited. So like, it's
Cards and duct tape, I mean, those are easy things.
yep.
Yeah.
So and
No special equipment needed.
you'll be surprised at the crazy solutions that we'll see out of all these kids. So. The other thing I wanted to mention is how important instant challenge is. Even if everything at the central challenge goes bad, you still have 25% of the score from the instant challenge. The instant challenge is a huge equalizer in the playing field. It can take a team from 6th place to 1st place, or from 1st place to 6th place. So we highly recommend practicing instant challenges at your team meetings. Maybe even have one every day for your team meetings. You can also use instant challenges to help teach some of the skills that could be beneficial in solving the central challenge. So like you could give them an instant challenge that uses duct tape and playing cards with an objective that's different than the actual central challenge, and it helps them get that ideas flowing and the thought process is happening and like how to use those materials and stuff like that. It could be a good way to get them started and to get them moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and practicing instant challenges is so important because I had one of my friends' teams. They got like 300 out of 320 on their main challenge, like the best score I've ever seen, and they got like 5 points on their instant challenge, and they missed out on a chance to globals because they just bombed instant challenge so much. So practicing instant challenge is a huge thing.
So, do you guys have any questions of us? Because we've got 3 more minutes. Finishing on time or early just doesn't happen, so this is kind of a shock for us right now.
So I have a question on the barrier thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So the height, I mean, my daughter is in elementary school, so the height is, it's like 6 inches, right? It has to
The
be.
little ones.
So it's the little ones.
Elementary? Yeah.
So
Yeah,
elementary would just be this.
Okay, so it cannot go beyond that, or it cannot go minimum than that.
Right,
What-
they go
So it has to go over this barrier.
Can it touch the barrier or?
No.
It cannot touch the barrier.
We cannot touch it.
the barrier.
It has to go over the barrier without touching it. It can't go under, it can't go around, it has to go over.
It's almost like the bear
But
thing.
can we increase the height of that? I mean, if the elementary kids they want to make it as like okay 12 inches.
So you could increase the height, but on tournament day, being an elementary team is going to be a 6-inch barrier.
Okay, it's only the 6.
They can go as high as they want,
Yeah,
but as
yeah.
long as it
I
goes
mean-
over that, we're good.
Yeah.
It doesn't
So I
matter
mean, that
how
bridge
high
could
it is.
potentially
As
be
long
like
as
this
it's
high
not-
off the ground.
It's not extra,
It's
it's not
definitely
extra
gonna go over the
points to
6-inch
go
barrier.
higher.
No,
you know?
it's not.
But it can be as high or as low as they want it to be. It's
Okay.
up to the team.
Okay.
I guess the only
There may be some, there may
disadvantages,
be some advantages and disadvantages
Right.
of being higher than
yeah,
that.
I mean, who knows what the load going across could do to it, maybe it would dip it down too much, or, you just never know.
You never know.
They should just try lots of different
Practice, try lots of different
solutions and
things.
see which one they like the best.
Yeah.
And look at the equations and to
Right.
see how your points are lining out. They,
Mhm.
I mean, teach them how to do the calculations. They
Yeah.
can do that.
How to get the points.
Yeah, good math.
Yeah.
Learn to love math.
And I was not a math teacher. I've been looking at that book this whole time, I wanna go check it out.
See what's changed?
Well, it's Saxon math, so I have an opinion about it. So I wanna go see,
Okay.
Better get in there and find the torch
New
there.
topic.
I'm guessing
Anyway.
that's what is.
Awesome. All right, so if you guys don't have any other questions for us, thank you for coming today. And we highly encourage you to reach out to your challenge masters. You'll have regional challenge masters based upon which region you're in, which we have Marcy from North
North.
Metro and
Luann.
from
South.
South Metro.
What regions are you
So,
in? Cherry Creek and.
South.
Very good.
Yeah,
awesome.
Stone Mountain, so.
Well,
Okay. So
long time
You have
for
any
this.
questions?
Well,
yeah.
and you'll probably see a lot of us at the
That's
Cherry
only my
Creek one
third year
because you
having
guys
to
are the
take it,
first
so.
one of the season, so we'll probably all
Okay.
descend
You
upon
just
them.
go.
Yeah.
When is Cherry Creek?
It's on
22nd of
22nd of February.
Really early.
22nd?
Yeah,
When if you have questions or anything,
it's in the new.
put all of our emails in and you'll get a response a lot faster. So like if
You might get 4.
you might get 4 responses, you know, and you know,
Okay.
you'll get a quick response if you put a lot of people in. So we try to get back to people within 24 to 48 hours. So like we'll try to get back to you pretty quick.
Yeah,
Some of us sit at our computers more than others, you know. Like if it's a quick, easy question, I'll just respond while I'm walking from class to class on my phone, you know, like
So can I ask questions like okay is this material allowed or something?
you can ask us anything and everything.
I was gonna say that one's kind of, I can answer that one already. That's
but-
a-
Yeah.
It's up to the playing cards.
There
No
are
matter what
specific
size,
rules of
just-
the road. What's allowable, what's not.
What does that packet up front?
There are safety
Really the
concerns
biggest thing
for some
is-
items or materials in the rules of the road, which I believe Ron was just mentioning.
Okay.
So like no fog machines, no open flames, no combustion engines, no fireworks, no
And I think
no
they close in
lasers.
the
There's
dark because you're not allowed to switch
the-
lights off. And
yeah, you can't switch lights off. Like it's a good document to go look at and read. And if you're not sure of something, just open up the PDF, hit Control F, and start looking for the specific thing. So because a lot of times it's in there. It's like 80
Can these
pages.
materials be
It's in
shared
there.
with the kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's allowed, right?
Oh yeah, for sure,
wow,
definitely.
nice.
Print them off a copy. Let them go
Very
through
thick
it. So
packet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is like if you're not seeing something, shoot us an email because we probably have seen it or dealt with it or read it a bazillion times. So at this point for us.
And then if it's challenge specific, write a clarification
Yeah.
Okay.
and send it.
We may not have an answer if you
Yeah.
send us something. We'll direct you to ask for a published clarification or a private clarification. Okay? So a private clarification is a clarification that only your team gets from the International Challenge Masters. They're the ones that answer everyone's questions globally. Okay? So you'll get a specific answer from them, which becomes a rule for everyone. So everyone plays on that same playing field there. So like you might ask a question that changes something drastically, but you're the only ones that know about it. So, you know, but
I was just
and if
thinking
you
of
do
that.
that, make sure you bring your clarification with.
yeah, if you do that, you have to bring it on tournament day.
Over there.
Yeah.
Because if we don't know about it, then
Yeah.
There are a couple in the back.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Are these the
alright.
only
So
two?
reach out if you guys need anything. Seriously, we're here to help. Don't feel bad about asking. So.
yeah.